You're listening to the All Birdies, No Bogeys podcast, your weekly disc golf analysis podcast right here on JomezPro. I'm your host, Brian Earhart. Nate Perkins, my co-host, joins me again. It is major week, the first major of the year in 2025, PDGA Champions Cup. Out there in Stockton, California. The President's Cup is out there in Stockton for the very first time. A lot of new things happening. Nate, how you feeling?
I'm feeling great, Brian. I'm still here in Bend, so as soon as this pod's over, I'm going to hit the road. Got an 8-hour drive down I-5 to get to Stockton, but I'm ready to get back in the scene, man. I'm ready to get down there. Looks like I just checked the weather, and Stockton can go one way or the other, right? Like it can be scorching hot and windy, or it could be, 60, 70 degrees, pristine, and it looks like we're getting that pristine weather, so I'm excited to get down there.
When you're on course, from your perspective for the majors, is it different for you? Do you feel like you change the way you approach the job at all?
I think I don't know if I change the way I approach it, but the feeling I get from the tournament is definitely different, right? I feel like the story that's being told has a little more weight to it, and the winner, obviously it can change their life, right? If it's someone that's never won a tournament before and they have the weekend of their life, they're all of a sudden a major champion for the rest of their life, and no one's ever going to be able to take it away. And it's those stories that I feel like we're trying to deliver, right? That's what I'm trying to help, do out there on the course is tell the story of how this person persevered and now things are different for them, right? So when I do interview a champion and it's their first time winning a major, it's the most special part of the job for sure.
Do you think it's going to be a first-time winner before we get into the perks pick side of things?
No, I do not.
Okay, blunt. Before we dive farther into this, Nate, we're going to go in a completely different direction real quick.
Yeah.
I just came from Fredericksburg, Virginia. I took a little vacation off disc golf, and I competed in my very first overall tournament. But this was the 48th annual Virginia State Frisbee tournament that I went to.
All
179 people there, I think the final number was. And if you haven't heard of an overall competition, this is a long-standing format of overall flying disc events. And back in the day, that's all it ever was. It was a mixture of a bunch of things: accuracy, distance, disc golf, freestyle, all those things combined to crown a champion. And I got to go do my very first overall competition, and I got 5th place. I didn't do too bad.
Let's go.
I felt great about it. And you step onto kind of the site where the event is, and you instantly realize, whoa, like disc golf's not the center of the universe anymore. And back in the day, it wasn't the center of the universe for a very long time. And all of these old traditions in Frisbee sports have been upheld by this very small group for forever. And it's so cool to step on those grounds and interact with those people. My buddy Joel Rogers, who's an 11-time world champion in freestyle, he's kind of my mentor. He was the one that invited me to come out there, and he was showing me around. And Nate, it was so cool to have Joel point to a guy and be like, Brian, that's the very first guy to throw 400 feet ever with a 119-gram Whammo 40 mold. Whammo paid him $400 silver as a bounty for doing that.
No way.
You meet all these people who accomplished all these crazy things with discs that we wouldn't even be able to fathom doing those things with. And what I thought was wonderful is it's so community-based. They were just there for the sake of being there. Obviously, these people have never played for any money whatsoever. But they've spent so much time doing what they were doing. I heard stories from, 1980 world freestyle champions about hitchhiking from event to event and actually successfully doing that across the country. And I don't know, the passion for the sport is still so strong. But for me, I went out there with no expectations. There's 6 events. There's double disc court. There's accuracy, distance, freestyle, disc golf, and what was the last
MTA?
one? Max time aloft.
MTA. Yeah.
Yep.
What was your best event?
Well, I got second in accuracy. I didn't think that was going to
Yes.
happen.
Is that
Essentially,
with
it's like
disc
a
golf
net.
discs or frisbees?
No, it's a very interesting parameter. The disc has to not be beveled. It can't have a beveled edge, and it also has to be able to float in water, I believe. So that kind of controls
Oh,
what weight you can use. So a lot of people were using lightweight Zephyrs from Innova,
okay.
but I have thrown an Ultra Star a million times, so that's what I used. And it's like a 5-foot net.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 5 feet by 5 feet with some soccer netting, and it's raised off the ground a little bit. And there's 7 different stations. There's 2 on the corners. There's a short one, a long one, and a long one, and then 3 straight ahead looking at the net. The longest one being like 80 to 100 feet. And yeah, I did great there throwing the
Sick.
Ultra Stars. MTA, I did okay. 7.37 seconds was my preliminary. I made the cut, and then I
Wow.
threw 7.55 in the next round. The winners are throwing like 10 to 12-second MTAs. And
Wow.
to do that, it's a completely different throw than just throwing it up into the air and having it come back to you. So I didn't know the
Mm-hmm.
strategy, and I didn't really want to sprint after the disc. I tried one time and pulled my hamstring, so I was playing pretty conservative after that. Um, but yeah, man, there's a guy I believe in his 60s that won the distance competition. He threw like 540 feet. Jack Cooksey is his name. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Just someone I've
60s?
never heard of before.
Five
Yeah, gray
bills?
beard, gray
Wow.
hair, everything. Yeah, full 360s, absolute smasher. Disc golf, I lost to Stokely and a local kid. But I did okay across the board. My freestyle routine was with Scott Stokely and Joel Rogers, and we had a good time. We didn't move on to the next round, but overall, it was the most fun I've had in such a long time.
Dude, you're in
Uh,
heaven. That's your
yeah, and I
jam.
got 5th place. I cashed. It was crazy.
That's
I got
rad,
a lot of
Brian.
respect from a lot of the old heads that weekend, and it felt really good because you step on there and you're an absolute nobody, and it felt kind of good to like have to completely prove myself again. But yeah, I'm definitely going back, and I'm going to try to bring as many people back there as I can because it's definitely something to experience. And just the passion for the community and how much they all came up to me and said they just love where disc golf is now, and they love the coverage we're doing. They love how far we've taken the sport of disc golf, and
Cool.
it just showed so much humility from their generation as well. So that was just a wonderful time. But
That's special, man.
Nate, we got to fast forward though. I could talk
Yeah.
about this event for a long time,
Yep.
but we'll save that for another day. We are changing from W.R. Jackson, Northwood Black to
Mm-hmm.
a very open, flat course here at
Mm-hmm.
Swenson. We
We
spoke
are.
to tournament director Sean Jack. We know
Yep.
that Leonard Muse has been out there doing a ton of work trying to
Yeah.
tweak the design, make it suitable for a major.
Yep.
What are your thoughts after all the chats you've had?
Well, when they originally got the bid, I think just the public reaction, they weren't, it was split down the middle, right? The people that know how good of an event Thousand Rated Productions, Sean Jack, Sean Mercy, Leonard Muse, how good of an event that they put on, they were stoked, right? And I think that some of the fans were a little split because, Champions Cup, it had this history of being this like wooded champions title, right? It was WR Jackson, and then it was supposed to always be WR, right? And it wasn't until they had the Pine Beetle out there and then the Hurricanes that it was taken off the list, and Northwoods Black filled in, which made sense, really difficult wooded track, ton of history. But I'm stoked about the move, and I think we need to have our majors move around the country, right? It's okay for it to go to a wooded track, then an open track, and then back and forth, right? So I'm stoked about that. And, this is the 7th tournament that this team has put on, and it goes all the way back to the San Francisco Open.
Yep.
And that was one of my main questions for Sean Jack was like, why Stockton? The fans, they see that and they're like, why Stockton, California, right? You don't hear that city and immediately think good things, right? And of course he's laughing about it. And his answer was pretty clear, right? Like COVID happened for San Francisco Open, and so they had their hands tied. They had to move out of the liberal city during the pandemic, and They went and looked at Sacramento, a couple courses around there. Then they visited Stockton. And the visitors bureau kind of wined and dined them and said, like, hey, we'll give you money if you bring this tournament here. Like, we'll work hand in hand with you. Then they visited, the OTB headquarters, who's been a big sponsor of their event. Then they went out to Swenson and they realized that they had something special there. And so when I go down to Stockton, don't love the city, don't love the environment, but when I pull into the course, you're stepping into a little oasis. I mean, there's massive oak trees, there's foxes running around, there's all these hawks like swimming near the canals. It's honestly a really special golf course. And my next question for Sean Jack was, when you got the major bid, did you go to your team and say, we need to change the intention of the course because it's a major? And they did exactly that, Brian. They went to Leonard Muse, who you and I have talked to a lot, and he's a course design like savant, really. I mean, the dude's like zoomed in on everything that he's doing on every hole. And they told Leonard that they wanted to up the challenge a little bit, but they also wanted to add a little diversity because they didn't want a 4-round event being played on the same course back to back, right? So the biggest shift that we're going to see this year at Swenson is they've changed 10 holes. They have an A and B layout.
Yep.
And it's not just pin positions, right, for this A and B layout. On the B layout, there's actually 3 completely different holes. So it's something that we really haven't seen on the Disc Golf Pro Tour or the Elite Series, is not just moving the pin around, but changing the complete tee position, fairway, everything is different about the B layout. So he said that pretty much they have to practice 1.5 courses for this week's event. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
I guess I'm just excited and proud of this crew because they got a golf course. The entire disc golf community, it seems like, instantly goes, please, no more golf courses. Please don't do this to us. But when you walk the grounds there, you realize that there's so much potential. And I remember when it was only part of the golf course that was kind of up for grabs and golf was still happening. We'd have golfers hitting shots at us while we were trying to practice the course. But now it's the entire facility. And that's what, a 200-acre plus property, right?
Yeah, it's massive.
When you have that, of course you can put that many courses down. You could have 2 completely separate disc golf courses if you maximize the entire facility. It's kind of like a Glendevere. Glendevere, another massive place. They actually do have 2 18-hole courses on. But I think for a major, especially 4 rounds, that's exciting to me. And Leonard had been talking about that for a long time. He really wanted to do A and B pins for a lot of different holes, and this has been another discussion in the disc golf world. But I did not know they were going to do completely separate holes, which I think is fantastic.
It's cool.
I'll throw it right back to you. What do you think about that? And what did you hear from Sean?
Well, I love to hear the attention to detail, right? Like, they're not just like, hey, we've had success with the OTB Open in the past and we're going to run it back, same course. They've tweaked it every year, and I think it's made improvements every year. And the thing that Sean really wants, people to know is that they are really focused and they take feedback on the player experience and the fan experience. Like, that's the 2 things that their team are priding themselves on. And I think they've delivered in the past, right? Like, they're making sure that the touring players have a good spot to set up. If they're rolling in their camper vans, they're pretty much camping right on the course. Like, they have a huge practice area right there for the players. And then the fan experience, they have all these spots set up around the course where the fans can kind of set up. They're getting food, getting drinks, there's bleachers, and they're able to watch a variety of players roll through. So it's that kind of, event production that they're kind of on the leading edge of that, right? They're the ones defining like the premier things that we offer, right? When you go out there, I forgot it's Party Island. It's Party Island, right? You used to be able to watch hole 11, 12. You would watch them tee on hole 7, and then you could see them finish on the 17th. You remember that shot
Mhm.
over the water on the little peninsula? Calvin drained like the 50-footer
Great
last
hole.
year. That's now hole 18, Brian. So
Perfect.
you're there, you're on Party Island, you got the OTB booth set up. There's a couple different eateries out there. So there's going to be like upwards of 1,000 fans like right there on that little island watching players finish their round and watching the champions get crowned. So attention to detail from Thousand Rated Productions. That's Sean Jack, Sean Mercy, Leonard Muse is the course designer, and then the Swenson Park staff, right? The golf course, they really get behind it. I think, when we often, rent out a golf course, they're like, they're kind of hands off, but the entire staff is out there helping them like trim stuff, make second cuts and line OB and everything. So I think it's just that combination of everything that is going to make this a premier event.
How different, maybe you didn't ask this, how different is the FPO to MPO layout?
Yeah, it's significant. I mean, the distance is significant. They're not completely different courses in that they have the same flow. They share a lot of the same tee pads, but it's not just, hey, FPO is halfway up the fairway, right? Like when Leonard goes to design, he's a big analytics guy, right? He's going to look at the analytics from the whole last year, how many birdies, how many bogeys, that nature, and he adjusts accordingly, right? So they're completely different courses.
I remember listening to Leonard talk to me last year about how closely he watches the scoring spread. He is like watching cards come in on 18, watching the scores update as another hole is
Yeah.
being played. And I personally think like par has something to do with it. Having a par involved with the hole helps with that. And I know some people say par doesn't matter, but it helps when it comes to giving context to what changes you need to make for a hole in the future. And I love that Leonard goes off of that. I want to ask you, Nate, you've played a lot of disc golf courses. How much does par matter to you? And when it comes to scoring spread, what would you look for in when to change a hole or not change a hole?
Yeah, I think the analytics of par are less important than the flow of the hole and the scale of the hole. I really feel like par it's after the fact, right? And sometimes it'll affect the way players play a hole. If you give it a par five, you might push people into going for an eagle, but more often than not, that it's the way we score it, right? So I think there's two ways to look at it, and Leonard's definitely a big analytics guy, and I think they both still work.
Well, let's go into both divisions and who is hot right now going into this event. We'll start with FPO. I think this is super exciting. Back at KC Wide Open, we were missing Kristen Lott. We were missing uh, Silva, Evelina. It felt empty without those players there, but it was exciting because we got to watch Holland go wire to wire, shoot a fantastic weekend of disc golf, and now meeting back up with the Europeans at the major. This is going to be a fantastic weekend. I want to see what kind of form everybody's in. If you were to give a power ranking, maybe of the top three, who do you think are the contenders in regards to how we've seen them play recently?
Yeah, I think this one actually feels pretty easy for me in the FPO category. It's Kristen, it's Holland, it's Ella. I really feel Swenson it's a power track for FPO. I think that Evelina's in the mix there. I think she's sitting in fourth, but I think Silva's at a slight disadvantage because of the power aspect and the power forehand aspect. I think Ella and Holland just have a huge advantage on a player like Silva being able to throw a 375 hyzer forehand. I just think that you need that shot to place yourself in positions to score. So that's my top three. Where are you at?
I'm pretty similar to you. I will say, when you play a longer tournament, 4 rounds, 5 rounds, putting gets that much more important. You mess up on the putting green twice around over a 4-round tournament, that's 8 strokes that you're losing to somebody else. And that's why yes, Ella has won here before. We have seen, even when she's shooting good scores, we've seen the putter shaky. And on an open course like this, I know she's won here. I'm not going to put that away. It was a phenomenal performance. But when it comes to power ranking and how we've seen players play recently, I still put Silva very close to the top. I go Kristen's won. She has just looked unbelievable. She's dominating the driving categories right now. And her putt hasn't looked terrible. She's missed some short, shaky putts, but she's made up for it with some beautiful circle two looks. So you have to believe that she went home for some R&R, but didn't just lay and do nothing. You know, she was on the putting green practicing for this major. So she's number one, hands down. I'm excited to see Grand Slam Kristen come back and take down a title. Silva's number two for me. I know she came in and was shaky down the stretch at Music City Open. Not having a sidearm out there was tough, but the fact that she shot that well without one was pretty incredible. I think here you have a little bit more freedom. And yeah, Ella and Holland and Kristen are throwing way farther than Silva, but I don't think she's a slouch in that category. But my thing is, she is doing phenomenal in Circle 1. She's going to stay consistent. She's the best Circle 2 putter on tour. She's putting 33%. She's made a third of her Circle 2 putts from range.
33.
That's going to add up over the course of a major championship. And you know what? Here's the thing. If she's not throwing very long compared to the other players, maybe she gets some more C2 looks. That's great. That is only to her favor. So Silva easily gets the 2. She has looked unbelievable so far this year. And Holland is obviously 3. She has to make the power rankings. And I feel like any given weekend, like these players are interchangeable. We saw that Holland took Kristen down at Open at Austin. And if it's windy, I might give the edge to Holland because she can throw that super overstable flat shot with more speed than the other 2 players. But she's got to show up on the little things as well. She did really well at Kansas City, making those defensive putts, so to speak, when you miss a putt and then you have a comebacker from 30, 35 feet that you have to make. She made a lot of those, and that's
she had a lot
huge improvement from years past. So she's gunning for that major title. So all I'm going to say, that's my 3. Man, maybe even the Chainsaw Burge might come in and sneak a win in. Who knows after how she performed last weekend. But anyway, we'll talk more about the Chainsaw later. MPO power rankings top 3. This is tough.
This is a little tougher, right? There's a lot of guys that have it for this week, right? There's a lot of guys that play golf courses really well. I mean, I'm looking at the list and going pretty far down, like down into the 10-20 range, and there are contenders, right? I mean, Eagle McMahon, 1030 rated, probably the lowest rating he's had in the last few years, and he's a past champion here. Right, he won the very first OTB Open with a blistering. I think he shot 13 to open.
I think we
that
called
year.
that one together.
Okay, yeah, Oh, yeah, that's right, on Gatekeeper, right?
He threw that mid-range roller on that one hole that was like 400 feet and parked it.
That's right. He threw the MD3 roller. I remember that glow disc. Yeah, we did call that. There's just so many players that are in contention. I saw Josh Anthon is in the field this week. That's pretty hype. James Proctor, his UCL, he's recovered from that, and he's back in the list. My power rankings, though, Brian, are still going to kind of stay toward the top, and I'm going Gannon, Ricky, and Anthony Barella. I feel like Gannon is in a class ahead of Ricky and AB. He's got his own power ranking. I think he's just going to set the pace. He has dominated 4-round events in the past. He's played really well at this course. And when the wind is down, he's going to be the person that's playing near perfect. He's going to be the person where I just don't see him shooting below double digits on any of the 4 rounds. And yeah, Gannon's going to take the event. Ricky, number 2. I mean, still the only other player rated above 1050 and still one of the hungriest guys out there. He's had his ups and downs, and the downs this year have been a little bigger than we saw last season. I still can't quite put my finger on what caused him to falter at Music City when he was playing well, what caused him to falter at KC, to not push Gannon when Gannon was 3 over through 3 on that final 9. But he's still playing good disc, and I'm putting AB above Ezra Robinson. I'm putting him above Paul Macbeth simply because of the power that you need out here. He hasn't had his best season, but I think that his distance and his ability to kind of shorten a lot of these par fours and throw the Luna approaches is giving him the slight edge there.
I'm going to definitely take Gannon number 1. The win last weekend, and not even just the win, the 14 down showed me that prime Gannon is coming this season. He's still ramping up to that point. That 14 under at Bad Rock was just disgusting. It was one of those rounds where the player is so good that he starts to make the game look easy and you forget.
Yeah.
We watched Kristen do it all of 2023. And that was special. And he's crushing everyone in Circle 1 in regulation. And again, that's one of those stats that over the course of a weekend, you give yourself the most looks by far, and your putt starts to get hot, it's game over for the rest of the field. He's leading that category by 4% over the rest of the field. And then it's tight with everybody else. Number 2.
Where are you going? I'm excited. I don't know where you're going. It's tough, man.
I think Ricky, if I just have to make a list based on what I've seen, the majors have scared him, and
they have.
And that's just objectively, and I'd love to see him win one. I think it would be a really emotional win for him, just like it would be for Macbeth. But I'm not going to put him on the list. I think there's a lot more hungry players that could come out and win this. I think, frankly, I got to put Paul at number 2. He's number 2 in the tour rankings right now, but he has been so close to shooting electric rounds. It's just been 1 or 2 tiny misses that take him out of it, but he's been
in the mix every time. Every week he's been in the mix.
Here's my thing. So we look at MCO, wide open course, big distance heavy. He got 4th place. He had a chance to win the tournament. Came out KC wide open, huge course, super tough course, had a chance to win, got 3rd place. The one thing for Paul is Circle 1 putting, he's 20th on tour. Circle 2 putting, he's 9th. Wow. He's been putting a little bit better from range, but the reason I put him up there is because he's 1st in fairway hits by a pretty good margin. He's 2nd in Circle 1 in regulation behind Gannon. He's losing to Gannon by 4%. He's at 50. And then he's 2nd in Circle 2 in regulation. So vintage Paul is coming back, because that used to be his MO, is every single weekend he would be destroying you and giving himself looks for birdie. And in disc golf, we all know that's the most important thing, because putting, you can throw a knuckleball into the basket and it can still go in. It's just different than traditional golf. I'm not going to put AB on the list because I look back to the most recent tough course that he had to play.
Yeah.
And he just didn't do that well. And especially at a power heavy course at Music City, he got 20th place, I believe.
Yeah.
Just not showing up. I want him to show up. I would love to see him show up, because when he's playing at his best, it's the most entertaining disc golf I've seen in forever. It's just captivating to watch. But when you look at the stat categories too, I got him pulled up here. He is not doing well in the driving categories, and that needs to be his bread and butter. He's currently 42nd in fairway hits, and on a course like this with the OB everywhere, that's not going to fly, because missing the fairway a lot of times is just being out of bounds.
Yeah. He's had some good history here. 2nd, 4th, 6th OTB Open. The first OTB Open took 2nd. I remember him, coming down the stretch, pushing Eagle McMahon. I think him and James Conrad tied for 2nd that year. So he's had some good history here, but you're right on the recent performances. I mean, where's he been, Brian? 15th at KC, 20th at Music City. Best finish is still Supreme Flight, 2nd behind Ezra.
Well, his best category is second place in scrambling, and how much scrambling is there to do at this
On the golf
course? You
course,
got to
yeah.
hit fairways, and you got to throw really beautiful second shots up to these tough greens, and you have to putt. He's 37th on tour in circle one putting. He's at 83%.
37th?
Yeah,
What
so
percent is that? High 80s?
83.24.
Oh, 83. Oh, he's putting
Yeah,
bad, C1. Yeah.
yeah, and I think he would probably tell you that as well. And he's not, he's 17th on tour in circle two. So right now, I want to be blown away by him, but he's not going to get that spot. I'm putting Nicholas Antila in there. And you know what? Emerson Keith won this tournament. They
Yep.
are not the same player. I get that. But when it comes to like distance and things like that,
They're
Emerson
close.
can rip the disc. But it's not like he was going out there murdering 80-mile-an-hour shots. Emerson played golf out there. You're not going to win this tournament by eagling every hole that you can. You don't need to. You'll maybe get one on a good weekend. So you can pick apart these holes. So I put Nicholas Antila up there because you look at his track record this season, and it's been phenomenal. And the only category he's not really doing that well in, well, there's two: park jobs and circle two putting. And that's about it. He's third place on tour in circle one in regulation, second on tour in fairway hits, third on tour circle two in regulation. He's right behind Gannon and Paul. So long-winded answer, but there's just a lot of players to have to sift through. We just had some really great performances early on. Obviously, Ezra, Adam Hammis, Austin Turner has been playing really well. Do you remember seeing that he was plus 10,700 in the
That's
sports
insane.
betting?
Yeah, that's insane. What is that? You bet 100 to win 10,000?
$10,000.
That's so crazy. Like, are we allowed to bet? I don't think we are, but
Nate,
I don't think
no.
we are, dude. I don't
No,
think
you're
we're
not.
allowed to bet, but okay, yeah. I'll just close that door,
Can
but
we do some sports betting?
yeah, can we bet,
No.
Okay. Well,
Sorry, bud.
what's important for me, Brian, with the Nicholas Antila pick is the wind, right? Because I
True.
think that he throws obviously amazing shots, and to be able to throw near the end of your limit and score over and over again, I think is a category that we overlook a lot, right? Like Missy Gannon is a player that does that a lot. Nicholas does that a lot. He's throwing at the far end of his distance range and then making a good putt and scoring on a hole you could have counted out on, right? You could have said like, hey, Gannon's going to get a stroke here, AB's going to get a stroke here, but keeps doing it. If the wind is up in Stockton, I think it makes it harder for a guy like Nicholas to score consistently because you need that speed. You need that speed. When you get up to the open golf course and you have 25-mile-per-hour winds, it's just going to cut those flippier drivers down, right? And it makes it difficult. So I'm looking at the wind radar right now for Stockton.
Same.
It varies quite a bit out there, right? So even up to, you can't really trust this stuff until like a couple days before, even the day before, right? But Thursday, 3 to 10 miles per hour out of the northwest. 84 degrees. So it's going to be it's going to be a warm day and a relatively calm day. The scores are going to be low. Then Friday, we're starting to pick up in the afternoon, 2 to 14, but gusts up to 25 out of the west, right? And then Saturday, the temperature drops, but the wind is up, Brian. Gusts are pushing up to 30 miles per hour. And then let's check Sunday right here. Where are we at? We're again pretty low temperature, and the wind's going to drop again, 6 to 11, gust up to 20. So overall, relatively calm day. Saturday looks like it could get a little breezy. If it's calm, I like the pick at Nicholas at number 3.
Nate, I understand why you said that. Do we quickly forget that he won MCO? Do you remember the weather at that tournament?
It was nasty.
There were tornadoes that touched the ground. There were discs that were trying to skip right and then blown 30 feet to the left out of bounds. We saw Ricky's drive on hole 9. Nicklaus won that tournament. he throws 70 miles an hour. I talked to the Tectis CEO, and he vaguely recalls Nicklaus throwing about 70 miles an hour, 1,200 RPM. That's plenty to throw far enough and stable enough discs to shoot well in these conditions. And I think the bigger things to look at are, what are your fairway hit percentages? And we've played some open courses out there on tour. He's third place. He's not going OB very much. Let's see, actually, ranking OB wise. He's like top 10 on tour in OB percentage as well. So that's why I picked Nicklaus at number 3. But Nate, what player storyline wise would you love to see win this major?
You know, you asked me earlier if I felt like we were going to see a new major champion, and I always want it to happen. I mean, I'm being selfish. I want to interview someone. I want them to be in tears, right? I want their lives to be changing in front of my eyes, right? I want that moment. I want them crying, dude. It's so special. Like, Sundays are just incredible in our sport. We're crowning 2 champions, and when it's a new champion, there you can't beat it, right? You can't beat the emotional release, all the friends joining them on the green, and just what happens to them. You see it. You see their lives changing before your eyes. And so there's a number of players that, you know, it would be really emotional to see them take down the title. I mean, you know, I'm going down the list, like, it's hard. There's so many friends, right? I would love to see a young guy take it, like Andrew Miranda out of Atascadero. Like, I would love to see him play some good golf and be in the mix. Noah Meinsma has been playing good golf. I mean, when is Gavin Babcock going to push and be in the mix at a major? I know that his best golf is still in front of him.
Close.
I mean, how many people want Aaron Gossage to break through the putting woes? He's almost won here in the past. Close. He was there. It was his putter faltering that really opened the door for Emerson Keith to come through. So there's a ton of great storylines out there, Brian. And I think what we should do, and maybe we could save this for Perks Picks, but we should pick someone. We should do a deep cut, right? Like, not just who's the best storyline, but who do we really think, like maybe 10-20 and below, that has a good shot, right? Well, let's start with the MPO. Who do you think 10-20 and below could be a real contender this week?
Let me take a look.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look who is conveniently 10-20 rated. The man who just won at a very windy Champions Landing course, Zach Nash, the spin genius.
Oh, did he take down? Did he take down?
Yeah,
Glassblown. Wow, what a win!
So, you know what? I remember seeing him do well at this course last year. I watched him quite a bit, and that was kind of the first time I really studied his throw.
1070 final round, 12 down. Yeah, that's nasty.
I'm going to choose Zach Nash. That's my guy.
Yeah, that's a solid pick. That's a solid pick, and yeah, he's still the spinniest guy on the Tech Disc, right?
Yep.
Highest
over
RPMs?
1,800, I believe.
Over 1,800. Crazy. Well, I'm going to drop some names on here, right? We've got Linus Carlson. We haven't seen him perform. Silas Schultz. It's been a while for him as well. He was making a push at a previous Champions Cup. Do you remember his performance at WR Jackson? That's still the best golf he's played. That's still the best disc golf that Silas has played. We've got Elite Series champions. We got Jeremy Colling. He's really unhealthy. He's had a really tough year. Jesse Nieminen, 1018 out of Finland, took down an Elite Series last year at Copenhagen. Silver Fish. Steve Rico's playing. That's cool. You know, I'm going to go with Jesse Nieminen at 1018 rated.
Good call.
Doesn't have the biggest arm, but really precise, going to hit a lot of fairways. And if he can get circle twos dropping, he's got this great kind of like jump pitch putt that he can get dropping, and he could play some good golf. I'm sticking with it. Jesse Nieminen.
Okay. So then with that, if we're already here, those are going to be our Perks picks. How many points do you want to assign to this deep cut? It's whoever's guy does better. Do you want to just assign a point to this one?
Yeah,
1
whoever's
point?
guy does better. Yep. And then,
And
you
then
know, bonus if they win, obviously the season's over, right? The perks picks, like if we go sub 10-20, it's the season's over.
okay. All right. We're locking this in. If Yesay wins, the season's over. Perkins gets a belt or whatever
Yep.
we need to make for him.
Same for Zach Nash. If Zach Nash
Okay.
comes out on top.
And the loser has to do something that we haven't specified yet. We'll get to that. And then I'm guessing if we were to do a podium that you predict, that's your power rankings essentially, right? That's who you'd pick.
Yeah.
Okay. So did we both pick the same podium for FPO?
No, you picked
Silva.
You picked Silva. I had Ella at third. You had Holland at third.
Okay. So then I will go. I'm going to switch mine around if I'm going to do a placement, because I think if you get a perfect placement, you'll get, that would be crazy. You get 10
That'd be
points,
crazy.
right?
That'd be crazy.
Yeah. Okay. And then otherwise, winner gets 5 points. Fair?
Down.
Okay. So I'm going to go Kristen, Holland, Silva. That's my setup.
Sweet. I'm Kristen, Holland, Ella.
Okay. MPO. Are you happy with your order?
I'm happy with my order. Yeah, I mean it hurts. It hurts. Like I want Calvin in there. He won last year here. He's, you know, Sean Jack has called this the low ceiling open in the past because of the way that they use a lot of the oak trees out here. You have to like get the disc up to speed, like pretty low off the ground, and obviously no one does that better all time than Calvin Heimberg.
That's true.
You know, I'm big on Adam Hemis too. I think that he just plays great at a golf course. Simon Lizotte, past champion here. It's tough, man. It's really tough. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go Gannon, Rick, and AB, even though Rick and AB they're a little volatile right now. I'm going to stick with it though.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go Gannon first, then Paul, and then Niklas. That's what I'm going to go with. Just due to how they've been playing recently. Okay.
So for FPO, we need to go our deep cut pick. We need to go below 970 rated and below. So basically the top 9 are Henna is at 973. Then we got Ella, Kat, Silva, Missy, Evelina, Owen, Holland, Kristen. Those are all out. It's anyone 970 and below. So that leaves us like Rebecca Cox, Paige Pierce, who has won this tournament. She won it 3 times in a row, right? She won the first 3 OTB Opens at Swenson. We've got Cadence. We've got Katrina Allen. We've got the Monduhano, Sophia Donica, 951 rated, coming down to play the major, coming down from Canada.
Who do you think? You want to go first?
Yeah, we got Taylor Chosick. She's 924 rated. I'm going to go Sophia Donica. She's got the power. We've seen her play well on a similar style course. She set the course record at Portland at Glendoveer last year. Yeah, I'm sticking with it. She's 951 rated. Who you going, Brian?
Oh, I'm going the chainsaw, brother. I'm going chainsaw, Cadence Burge.
All right, man. She's trending. Dude.
I just feel like that's some confidence almost taking down a tournament, breaking the record for highest rated lost tournament. So a lot of things were shown to me at that tournament, at that course, that lead me to believe that the peak is nowhere close. I talked to her dad, actually. We messaged back and forth a little bit. Just asking questions and sharing information. He said that she's just all in. She is all in on disc golf. She loves it. And this is going to be her focus for a little bit. So
it's a good pick, man. That's a really good pick. Yeah. And look, I want to ask you something, Brian. What is going on with Paige Pierce, and what does she need to do to find her old self?
It's
complicated, right? It's complicated. Well, there's a lot. What do you think?
I almost, I almost don't think it's a fair question because so much has changed in Paige's life. And I don't know, she needs to show up and just play the course that she's the way she's played it in the past. But I haven't seen a lot of Paige this year, and you know what? I don't know. There's not a lot to really go off of. Um, but I think it's weird to call her a deep cut. I think it's weird to see the rating below 970, but I don't know. She's been on the road for what, 15 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
it's hard to
2010.
expect. Yeah, it's hard to expect somebody to just be like locked in and focused for this long. I know she wants to be, but when it comes to the question of what does she need to do to be her old self, you can't, because Paige Pierce now is not the same as Paige Pierce then. The play styles are different. The way she likes to throw the disc is different. It's just going to be showing up and letting the subconscious take over when you're that experienced and that talented. It's harder to tap into that beginner's luck, that beginner's mind when you're the most experienced person in the field. Um, and that's the obstacle that comes with experience. And I want to see it. I think that would be, if I were to pick a win, because we picked it in MPO, the players that we'd like to see win, that is 100% my pick in the FPO division.
Yeah. And we look at last year, Brian, when she got back to it, when she came back from the ankle injury, she got top 10 at chess, then she went 40th place, missed the cash in Austin, 28th place, 16th place, 30th place, misses the cash at Champions Cup. And then it was OTB where she finally started to figure out her swing, finally started to throw the disc well, gets 5th place, and
Yep.
then goes on to win the next tournament at DGPT Plus event at Portland, which
That was amazing.
it was so incredible. It was the comeback story of the year, really. I mean, to go from there were some doctors telling her that she's not going to be able to like walk the same, right, because of how severe the ankle injury was, and then all of a sudden she's winning at Glendoveer. It was incredible. It was inspirational. And for me, Brian, I've been a close friend of Paige's for many years. I've caddied for her for dozens and dozens of tournaments, like major wins, a lot of Elite Series wins. And for me, the biggest thing, and you've really keyed in on this in the past with just your analysis, and it's like when you're riding high and you're really confident, you're walking the tightrope, right? And you've kind of given the metaphor of you're walking on top of a blade. You're walking
Mhm.
on top of the razor's edge, right? And when you have that confidence, you're able to do the dance, right? It's when you lose that confidence that there's that extremely steep drop off, right? You fall into the canyon or you fall down the razor's edge. And finding that confidence is it feels impossible, right? You're up against a wall, right? Because you can't just fake it. You need some results for the confidence. So her confidence has been snowballing in the opposite direction, right? And so every time she's going to practice, she's looking for a reason to feel confident again. Right? She's missing her swing, she's missing her shots. So then she's over analyzing, it's not working out. And then when you take that any break in that confidence and you try to play at the elite level, it's hard to recreate. It's hard to fake the confidence. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't think anyone really does, but you just need to start building the confidence within the round, right? Like you need to hit your first shot and then really trust in your second and your third and so on. And then I think it'll snowball in the other direction. Because right now she doesn't know where the disc is going to come out of her hand. She's either early or she's late and she's really thinking about it all.
Yeah. Uh, it's yeah. It's all presence. It's all showing up and letting the subconscious take over. She's probably thrown a disc more times than anybody in that field,
Hmm.
and she's
I
thrown
think
the disc
so.
well more times than anybody else in the field. So it's just showing up and playing the game, and it's so much harder to do that when you're in those shoes of having especially at the peak, everybody was talking about her every single weekend. She had the biggest target on her back, bigger than anybody else that almost we've ever seen. And to manage the expectations, manage the ego, and still keep performing 15 years later, it's tough. It's a triumph to even be doing it this long in this sport. How many people are going to last that long, Nate?
Not a lot.
Even in an era where there's way more money than there was before. She transcended multiple generations of players, slept on floors, roughed it across the country back and forth for next to nothing. So I think there's some resilience down there, and I'm excited to see her come back as well. That's
Yeah.
definitely my fan favorite pick.
Yeah.
But Nate, on a lighter note, this time of year, making the drive from the Midwest out to California is always special for the touring players. I have some wonderful memories making that trip out there for the first time. Uh, what was it like for you making those drives from the Midwest through the cornfields out to seeing the mountains and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it was the original inspiration for even going on tour. I watched Milo McIver, I watched the Beaver State Fling, I watched 2014 Worlds on the Disc Golf Planet, and watched De La Viega, the Masters Cup. And I just started signing up for those tournaments. I'm like, I've got to get out there. Like, I'm from Texas, never really seen the mountains, never been to the Pacific Ocean. I've got to go. And so it really was just a young kid, like, learning about the beauty of the world. So driving west for me, it totally changed my life, right? It led me to myself, right? I'm like driving, listening to Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, and all of a sudden I'm unlocking this entire new version of myself, like driving through Glenwood Canyon on I-70, stopping at the hot springs, and like really learning like what life is all about, right? And for some people, it's a burden to do all those drives, and I think for a lot of people, it's part of the whole experience, right? The journey of driving over the Sierra Nevada mountains in a snowstorm. I don't know if you were watching some of the players' Instagrams, but it's an 1,800-mile drive, and then they're like hitting a wall of snow, crossing I-80. You could go a number of different ways, but one of the major routes is I-80, like near Reno and Tahoe, and that pass kind of got shut down because of all the snow. So what memories do you have from driving west, Brian?
Oh man. So 2018 was the first year that I went on tour. I quit my job April 13th that year.
April 13th, you got the
Packed
date.
up the Buick LaCrosse. I packed up the Buick LaCrosse, and I went without much of a plan. I knew what tour events I wanted to go play. The tour was still kind of developing, so I played some B tiers and A tiers along the way out to the San Francisco Open. Um, but I lived in the Chicago suburbs growing up, right by the border of Wisconsin, and I had only known suburbia. You take
Hmm.
the train to the city
Same,
or you're back
same.
in the suburbs, right? So I was so naive going out west, thinking that there was just a town around every corner. There was a gas station, a Walmart, a Target around every corner. And when I drove out west, there's that one dead zone. I feel like you cross into like Utah or Nevada, and there's nothing
Just a
for a
desert.
very, very long way. It's
Hmm.
mountains and desert, and there's no gas stations for a long time. Um, and there's no cell signal for a lot of times, depending on what kind of cell provider you had. I had T-Mobile, apparently a dead zone out there. I discovered that late, so I'm driving out west. I stop overnight. I think I cashed at the Rumble, which is the A tier
Yeah,
out in the
yeah.
Quad Cities. And then I drove out west, and I treated myself to a hotel room. And it was in, I believe, Wendover, Nevada, or Wendover, Utah, something like that. And I remember having almost no gas, and I was like, okay, cool. I'll go to sleep, wake up, and I'll get gas in the morning and drive out and finish my trip. I wake up, I leave town, completely forgot to get gas. I'm driving like 70 miles an hour for like
No.
30 minutes. And I look at my meter and it is below empty. And
No,
I'm
dude.
like,
You're
"Oh."
toast.
Well,
Toast.
at first I was like, "Oh, no problem. There's gonna be a sign that comes up. There's gonna be a town in no time. I'll be able to fill up my gas." And then it never came. And I kept going. And then I pulled over and I tried to go on my phone and look up where the next gas station was, and I didn't have any service. So I had no idea when the next town was gonna be, when the next time I was gonna be able to get gas was, and I had no access to anything. So I was gonna have to stand outside my car and wave people in. And I was like, "You know what? I've been driving long enough. Like, I'll just idle and, like, see how far I can go," essentially. So I get back in the car. Um, I start driving like 25 miles an hour with my hazards on, and I drove for another
Did you make it to
10, 15
Wells?
minutes. Yeah, I think it was East Wells was the exit that I took, Nate. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
And it was so funny because the town was like only gas stations. It had like 8 gas stations. They
It's like, we
hoarded them
got you. We got you.
all in one town, and I like coasted downhill with my hazards on with
Yes.
just like going 30 miles an hour, and I got
Hmm.
gas, and I learned my valuable lesson that there are parts of the country that are not like the Chicago suburbs. And yes, that was funny. It was
So sweet.
scary. I was definitely alive in that moment, but
Yeah,
I
man.
definitely learned a lot from that first trip out west. And I also learned how beautiful disc golf was. I played a tournament
Yeah.
in Woodland Park, Colorado against Joe Revere at 8,800 feet.
Wow.
Lost to him by 8. Um, and I got second place.
Wow.
And I got just absolutely crushed by Joe for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. You feel small and you feel humbled,
Yeah.
and you also just see how rich the community is across the country. I had only really known my local guys, and yeah, I don't know. It makes you feel even more connected to the community. What about you, Nate? I know you've done some pretty wacky traveling, way more than me. I had my pretty rigid routine over the years.
Oh man, I think I always tell people that disc golf has been the greatest gift to my life, right? I also was from the suburbs of Dallas Fort Worth, honestly just a concrete jungle, right? And I didn't really know how much I wanted to be like immersed in planet Earth. Like I didn't know that my soul was craving more nature, and it wasn't until I was driving west and started to really unlock that and realize that it was my favorite thing in the entire world. Like that is what I was born to do. And so I just started using disc golf as an excuse to travel. I was like okay at disc golf, I got pretty good, and could compete. But really, I just was like, okay, I'm going to sign up for a tournament in Taiwan, and that means I'm going to Taiwan, right? Like I'm going to go to Thailand, I'm going to go to Taiwan, I'm going to Vietnam, and I'm going to Europe, and it was just a way for me to just get there, right? It was an excuse, and I was going there for the disc golf, right? I loved it, but I was also going there just to travel and immerse myself in a new, nature environment or a new cultural, environment. And yeah, so I do always have so much gratitude for where the game has taken me. And it's funny that you bring up Wendover, Utah, and I was looking at the map because it's close to that town of Wells, and that's where you got the gas. And one of the first friends I made on tour was Dustin Keegan, right, and Zoe and Dyke, Paul Oman, Shasta Chris. But Dustin kind of started showing me the ropes with hot springs, right? And when you start getting out west, you start finding all these hot springs. And one of my favorite ones is just outside of Wells, Nevada. It's called 12 Mile Hot Springs, because it's 12 miles from I-80. So I'm taking the Prius up there. I'm like on this like 4-wheel drive track, like not even sure if this place really exists, just going off Dustin's recommendation and pulling up into this canyon in the desert, like 7 a.m. It's freezing cold out, it's in the desert, but it's cold out. And then all of a sudden you start to see the steam like rising up. And I just had this basically like Olympic sized hot spring pool like in this canyon to myself. And again, realized that this is really what life is all about, right? Like it's about experiencing planet Earth, right? And what it has to offer. And so, that was the year 2016, my first year on tour, and still to this day, when I go on a road trip, I'm always looking for that hot spring on the route. And now at this point, I have them like all like mapped out on the Google Maps, like starred and stuff. So, shout out to Dustin Keegan for kind of unlocking that in me.
Oh man. I actually think we should make it a regular segment where we share either a great story or a really embarrassing story from tour, because I'm already thinking of like 4 or 5 off the top of my head that happened to me within the first 2 years. So
Yeah.
I think this is segment 1.
I want to hear some stories one day. We should do that. I want to hear some stories about you touring with Ulubari in the RV too.
Okay, yeah.
It's good,
I will.
man.
I'll tell that next week then. And
Yeah.
that sounds great. Well, Nate, it's been a great chat with you, my friend. Anything else that you want to cover before we wrap it up and get into major time?
Well, who do we have this week? So you just did a couple events in a row in the booth with Charlie. Is it Ian and I think Doss
I think it's
and
Ian and Nate Doss.
Ian and Nate Doss I think I saw Sexton on the talent call
Let me
as
take a
well.
look.
That would be cool. We haven't heard Sexton in a while. Always love that guy's insight. And then Valerie, Ian and Valerie, I'm assuming for FPO.
Okay. There's Champions Cup. Let's take a look here. Yeah, Sexton and Doss, color. Ian Anderson, play-by-play.
Cool.
Nate Perkins, both divisions.
Yeah, man.
And yeah,
Back at it. It's fun.
Yep.
I love the
Oh,
encores.
it's
I'm looking forward to President's Cup and the new format there. I think the team, Sean Jack and his team are cooking up some fun stuff. So that starts Wednesday. I'm driving like 9 hours today, and then we're doing the press conference tomorrow. So gonna interview some of these players and chat about their time driving and just how they're preparing for the event.
Well, Nate, let's just, for the people who haven't taken a look, let's just read off the rosters here
For President's Cup. Sweet.
Yeah, let me just show here. Hang on one second. And real quick, Simon's playing for Europe, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I was just double checking that because on the PDGA page, everybody's just scrambled up, which I find kind of funny. Paul Macbeth, Ricky Wysocki, Anthony Barella, Calvin Heimberg, Isaac Robinson. Yikes. Owen Scoggins. Where's our other one? Holland Hanley. Ballers. Dogs. And then Europe. Oh, and Gannon Burr. Didn't even list Gannon Burr off. He was mixed up with the European players. This is a funny page to look at. And then for Europe, Simon Lazat, Jona Heinonen, Vino Makela, Evelina Salonen, Kristen Lott, Albert Tam, Niklas Antila, Jakub Semerad. This is going to be a battle.
It is, and I also still feel like Europe's at a good disadvantage. I mean, the separation between Gannon Burr and Albert Tom, like, it's pretty extreme. Albert's a great player; he can game, but we're talking a 35 rating difference. We're talking that's like 3-4 strokes a round on average. Yeah, United States has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the top 10 rated players. So Europe's going to have to rally. They've pushed in the past. They've been close, but I still don't think they've ever won, right?
No, it was super close last year and ended up not happening. I don't know, Nate. Actually, let's do
they're going to have to bring the hit.
Let's do it right here. So what odds would you put on this? 2-1 for Europe to win, 10-1.
Oh, definitely not that steep. I mean, there's some good players on Team Europe, and I think Europe might have a slight advantage in the FPO category with Kristen and Evelina going up against Holland and Owen. It's pretty close. I would put it, 2-1 might be as steep as I go.
All right,
Where are you at?
No, I think that's just fine because if we'll add it to the perks picks, I'll take Europe.
Okay.
And you can take the United States. How many points would you give me if I win? To your 1 point for a win.
I mean, yeah, I guess you get 2 points, right? If you win.
All right. Done deal. I'll take that. Let's go Europe.
Safe bet.
Alley-oop. Well, Nate, it's going to be an exciting weekend. I cannot wait. There's going to be so many interesting storylines playing out in Stockton, California. That is going to do it, folks, for All Birdies, No Bogeys. We'll see you out there in beautiful Northern California. Good night, or morning, or afternoon.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. If we didn't get to your question this week, we're still checking that inbox every day, so make sure to send us an email, and we're going to run through some questions next week after the event.